What's going on, guys? It is Browns pregame. We got the Steelers tonight in a meaningless game, and hopefully nobody gets hurt, and everybody plays a fun exhibition game of football. It is NFL Week 17, and we have nothing to play for because we lost a whole bunch of very close games this year, and that ultimately cost us a chance at the playoffs. With me today is Bonzo1273, Mike Ristano. My dad isn't feeling well, so he's not going to be here. He may be in the chat along the way, but he should be okay. He's just wasn't feeling up to it tonight. So just really quick, mids plugs here. Hambo, Browns fan 1977. What's going on, guys? And Mike, first things first, how you feeling about the game tonight?
Yeah, I mean, you're playing for nothing, but you're playing for everything. I think is the message that Stefanski has to give the guys. You know, obviously, what I'm alluding to there is, you know, we've got nothing to play for in terms of the playoffs and you know, postseason life that we sort of got used to last year, and even got a taste of victory, albeit one game. But you know, the message has to be, look, we're out of it. However, this is a big game. There's two big ramifications right out of the gate. And one is you win tonight and you knock your rivals out of the playoffs. I think that is a very big one because, you know, if you can't go, you sure don't want your neighbor to be able to go, and neighbor meaning someone in your division. And then the second piece is, of course, sending Ben Roethlisberger out and away and finally giving him a loss at Heinz Field. Because the last thing that we want, and I think you could agree, is he finishes his career undefeated against us at Heinz Field. You know, I don't know what the numbers are. I think it's 15-0 or something stupid like that. But yeah, you know what? 15-1, 14-1, whatever it is, looks a hell of a lot better than a goose egg for us. So, you know, again, if I'm Stefanski, that's the message. And one big part that I'm missing as well is, you know, this means something to us. This means something to the city of Cleveland. If we can't make the playoffs, at least take care of the Steelers and knock them out, so we don't have to listen to, especially the folks in Cleveland that are very close to you know, Pittsburgh, and have to deal with Pittsburgh fans like I have to deal with Ravens fans. You know, you have the ability to shut them up 2 years in a row. So that's what I think we're playing for tonight. And if you're out there and you want us to lose, you know, that's not what needs to happen or what we need to be.
Yeah. I think the sentiment is pretty tough. You know, when the Bengals won yesterday, it really knocked the wind out of our sails, you know, in a pretty major way, right? It is what it is. But ultimately, you know, I think these guys don't want to go out. They don't want to be losers. You know, they want to go try to win these last two games, prove to the world that it you know, if you really put the best Browns team out there, we have a chance to beat anybody. We can beat teams in our division. We can beat teams away. And, you know, unfortunately, we had a lot of bad things happen. We had a lot of bad calls this year. We had a lot of injuries. We had COVID. Basically, everything that could go wrong for us went wrong. And that is what it is. I mean, at the end of the day, teams deal with injuries. Teams deal with things that, you know, look at the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens controlled their own destiny. I mean, they were about to run away with the division. And then they missed two extra 2-point conversion extra points. Right. And then honestly, you could even argue the one against the Browns. So 3 that ended up costing them a trip to the playoffs. And then on top of that, they lost their starting quarterback, they built their whole team structure around Lamar Jackson. So, I mean, I'd feel worse if I was the Ravens, where I just had it and it slipped away from me, versus the Browns, who we were kind of from the very beginning, from game 1 against the Chiefs, we were on the outside looking in. We had one chance to take over first place. You know, with the Raiders game, we had that stolen from us. Then the The 4 interceptions against Green Bay, can't have that. Ended up tanking that game. So, I mean, just all in all, this just wasn't the right year for us. I mean, we had been saying it all along. This isn't a championship team. You know, I felt that the whole time, that it wasn't a championship team, that it was purely a mediocre team, I guess, at best. And we happen to be that, guys. It's sad, but it is. I think the play calling from Stefanski was pretty mediocre all year. None of his trick plays worked. We even had some massively backfire, like the Scottish Hammer fake punt, the Jarvis Landry end around pass.
Seems like 10 years ago.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it does. It seems like an eternity ago, that Chiefs game. You know, yeah. It really does. And now we're sitting here, and now it's all about 2022, which is, I'll tell you this though. I will tell you this. The one thing I will say about these Browns, as opposed to all previous years of Browns prior to Stefanski, and really prior to Baker, I would say, right? Prior to Baker, we're playing relevant football at the end of the season. Every game matters, as opposed to, I mean, a lot of Browns fans have a very short memory. You know, Mike, you've been a Browns fan long enough to remember A, the city of Cleveland without a team. B, the city of Cleveland with an expansion team. D, the city of Cleveland without a quarterback that they could consistently believe in or thought that we had a future with. Then being a Browns fan and legitimately being out of contention by the end of October.
Potentially.
November and December, two, really, because, you know, NFL football going into January is kind of a new thing. But 2 of the 4 months of football being out of it, and really, I mean, you could even count some of those years being out of it by maybe even September. The 1-15 and 0-16 game. So now we're playing relevant football all the way up to the end, and I think that's pretty cool. I mean, I like it. I certainly would love for us to take a step forward and become that, like the Tennessee Titans have become, or, you know, the Bills have become, like those teams that on paper we should be as good, if not better than. But that's just not how the chips fall for us, you know? It's not in our cards. So, you know, we got 2 more games. We got this one, we got the next one. Fantasy football's over. Yeah, the season's winding down.
Yeah.
What Mike, are you gonna be watching the playoff games? Do you care? Is non-Browns playoffs a priority at all, or is it kind of like, if it's on, I'll throw it on? Or
nah, I usually watch, and the ones that I don't watch are the ones that consist of the Steelers or the Ravens. I get too stressed out because the thought of one of them getting to another Super Bowl
right.
makes me extremely nauseous. So when those teams are in it, I'm pretty antsy about it. But other than that, you know, I'll watch the playoffs. You know, at this point, 2 games left. You hope you win out. Winning record, you go into the off season. Cavaliers look good. If they can get through their COVID and a couple of these injuries, you know, it'll tide us over. But I mean, we're going to be moving swiftly. You know, once the season ends, those evaluations will start. I mean, that's the only benefit, really, if you could find any type of benefit out of where we are right now, is the fact that, you know, come next week, that Monday, you know, the coaching staff is back in the office and they're, you know, they're trying to figure out, you know, who they want to re-sign, who they want to provide a long-term deal, or, you know, do you want to lock up Clowney again? How much do you want to lock him up for? And, you know, and then, you know, the real elephant in the room is, you know, they get a head start on, you know, going over the, you know, the review of the quarterback room. And, at that point, they'll figure out what they want to do. I mean, there's a ton of speculation, as and all over Twitter and all the other, social media avenues. And it really doesn't matter what I think or you think or anybody in the chat thinks. The only thing that matters is what Andrew Berry and Stefanski and the staff and the ownership think. So, whatever those guys think is the right answer for the Cleveland Browns, that's the route that they'll take. Mm-hmm. And as you and I have talked about, the past couple of weeks, I would probably say that they're going to roll it back, with Baker, and they're going to select a wide receiver between 13 and 15. I would assume is where they'll probably wind up, in the draft. You and I talked today, and I do like Kenny Pickett's film, but you go through some of these draft guides, like I've been looking through, and believe you me, as the saying goes, guys and gals out listening and in the chat, if you saw some of the comps on some of these quarterbacks that are coming out, it's not something that you're gonna get too giddy about. And we're talking about, comparing guys to Gradkowski and Matt Corral to Rex Grossman and the kid from Liberty.
What did they have Pickett compared us?
He wasn't even in the guide. So he wasn't even one of their, I think it was the top 5 quarterbacks they had in there. So Pickett wasn't even in the guide. And again, it goes through the PFF stats, and you guys know that we go wild for that kind of stuff. But and honestly, if you just take it from a pure statistics standpoint, his numbers weren't very good. I mean, they were improved from the first 2 years, where he was like 13 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, and then this year he took a step and it was 40 some touchdowns and I can't remember, seven picks maybe. But the other stuff that you look for, big time throws and et cetera, it was 59th out of the college quarterbacks, 79th. So long story short, you just don't know.
There's no stud, right?
No, I mean, unless somebody, like Josh Allen appears out of nowhere, from Buffalo State or something. There's, unless you're going to go out and you and I have talked ad nauseum on the Wednesday show about, is Kirk Cousins available, et cetera. I don't see. They're going to run this back and get a couple more skill players, and we'll be healthy. Hopefully at that point, I would think come next season, I would hope that we've got a little bit better of a handle on COVID, to where, guys aren't going to be missing games at this point unless they're blatantly sick. So, we'll see. But I mean, unfortunately for us, we got 2 games, and then it's a long, cold winter, spring, and then, we'll start getting amped up again, come June and July, knowing training camp's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we'll have plenty of time, guys, to talk through, who's going to be available, who we want in the draft, what we like. Hey, my dad's in the chat.
Everybody
give a Brownie post game. Let's get some elves up in the chat for my dad.
There we go.
Who else we got here? So Ms. Plug Hambo, Browns fan 1977, Steve T, Ryan Burlow, X-Men Avenger, Fernando Rodriguez, Lynn Savage, Newcastle Brown, Mr. Rollup, Tim Zaylor, David Evan Smith, Shoot to Thrill. Who else we got up in the house? I don't want to miss anybody. Oh, Tyrone Jackson's here. B Skrills is in the house. Mr. Beesif is here. Who else we got? Ham Bones in the house. Ronald Sims. Mario G. What's going on, guys? So basically, I don't know. We're, Quincy Carrier actually had a nice tweet today, and he was like, there's actually a calming sense of peace about this game, because it's not something that's like we have to like be holding our breath on every play, and It's not the end of the world. If we lose, it's. I mean, if we win some brownie points for beating.
No pun intended.
No pun intended, for beating Roethlisberger. It's a victory. It means that we have a chance to not be a losing team going into the last game against Cincinnati. We can end up being a winner, which is fine, I guess. But here's the thing. This game does not matter and it doesn't matter to anybody, like to anybody on our side. It just doesn't. So that's what it is. I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously going to watch the damn thing. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have anything to say about it. I'm like, we're basically watching a football game that is irrelevant for all intents and purposes, yeah. Which is, it's such a difference between what we had been watching all season, where every play mattered so much. And now it's just like, oh, the Browns are on. I hope Baker looks good, and I hope we don't get anybody hurt, and I hope Miles gets a couple sacks, and hope we beat the Steelers. But ultimately, it just really doesn't matter. And this is what it used to feel like to be a Browns fan. For anybody who's kind of newer to being a Browns fan, this is what it felt like for a long time. It was like, oh, the Browns are on today. Okay, I guess we'll watch. Yeah. We're back to that.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, you're playing you're playing to knock them out, to give some reprieve to the fans, especially like Ken C just said, 17 years of a Steeler friend in his face. This game's huge, and it really is to some people. My neighbor, and we don't go back and forth, crazily about the Browns and the Steelers, but my neighbor's a Steeler fan, and
that sucks.
Yeah, we were chit chatting this morning, and he was like, "Man, I'd like to stick it to you guys one more time this year." And obviously, my response was, not only do I want to stick it to you guys, but I want to send your quarterback out on a bad note at his home field. And I mean, think about that. All the great things that he did. He won't forget the last game that he played at his stadium, losing to the Browns and not being able to take his team to the playoffs and try and end his career on a solid note. So, and again, like I said earlier, that's the message that should be coming from the head coach. It's let's ruin these guys' day, ruin his day. So we'll see.
And you know what? It's also, the message for the coach is like, look, we are now in 2022. Officially, we are in the calendar year 2022. And for any of you guys out there who don't have long-term contracts, go out there and earn it today. Go out there and show the league, show us, show the rest of the league that you belong here, and that you've got a lot left in the tank if you're an older guy, and if you're a younger guy, when you get an opportunity to touch the ball or go out and make a play, go out and do it, and really show the world that you're an NFL player, and you don't have any additional stress on the line. Go out and play loose, but play smart.
Yeah.
You got nothing to lose at this point. Just don't go out there and embarrass yourself. Go out there and make some plays. And let's go into next year with some solid stuff. Let's go into next year with some momentum, because here's the reality. Those guys that are out there that don't play well. If I'm Donovan Peoples-Jones, if I'm Austin Schwartz, if I'm those guys going, hey, if we haven't shown this team that we're good enough to be number one, number two type guys, they're going to go and draft our replacement. Because Jamar Chase yesterday showed that he should legitimately be considered the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, explosive. And
explosive.
Yeah, I mean, and I can't remember which one of the four it was, but I mean, he hit him in a little traffic and two moves, and it just took a seam, like a tiny seam, and dude was gone. Like, turn on the Jets, see you in the end zone, goodbye.
Yep.
And I mean, even Burrow said it. He said, Jamar's down there somewhere. I'll throw it up. And damn it if he don't come down with it.
And I think Burrow has been sacked something like 50 times.
Yeah.
Or hit 50 times, something like that. Whatever stat they threw out there was stupid. But I got to tell you, Jamar Chase got them into the playoffs. When it mattered, when you needed the moment, he came up huge in the moment. Chubba Wubba Hub 24, what's going on, man?
No, he really did.
He came up big, man. I mean, even my wife was like, oh my God, who is that guy? He's faster than everybody else on the field. And it's like significantly faster. You know, and that just goes to show when you pull the trigger on a superstar like that, and you've got a quarterback that's used to throwing, and they set records in college together, and the quarterback can go get me that guy. I'll be able to. I know I got my knee blew up last year, but go get me that guy and get me somebody to protect me in the second round.
And it's interesting and extremely comical in hindsight. And I can remember us talking about it on one of our shows. Do you remember when we were all, and everybody was laughing at the fact that Jamar Chase couldn't catch a cold. And he had that interview where he said, he wasn't used to not seeing the collegiate stripes on the ball. And we all laughed like, yeah, good pick there. And he figured that out pretty damn quick, huh?
Yeah, and maybe he was probably just trolling us.
Yeah. And it's interesting because if you, and it's sort of like the quarterback position a little bit as well, where, if you get a guy that's top notch, like a Burrow, or I know Trevor Lawrence is struggling, but the kid's solid. It's just, they're rebuilding, but they're plug and play out of the gate. And now you're starting to see these receivers now are starting to be plug and play. Like, if you remember, it used to take a little bit before, it took a while for, Adams to become Adams.
But like the Calvin Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald, those guys were like immediately.
Yeah. Those guys sort of like, and maybe it's just because they've come and gone, but those guys were sort of larger than life in a sense of like, as receiver ready as you possibly can be.
Yeah.
Where like you see Devonta Smith and Jalen Waddle and Jamar Chase, and these guys just plug and play, and they struggled for like a couple of games, and then boom, they took off. So that was my little ode to Madden there. But I think that we're going to be in prime position to get somebody, and like I said, they're going to roll it back. And now you're going to have whoever you draft will be your one, and DPJ will be your two, and Schwartz will be your three. Maybe
is Jarvis not coming back?
I don't know if he does. There's a lot of writing on the wall. There was an interview today, Baker and Alex Smith, and Baker said that he had a lot of relationships that he had to mend in the building. And I'm assuming that Juice was one of those because of what went down, and he's owed some money. I don't think the cap hit, the dead cap is that hard of a hit, but I don't think they're going to pay him as much as that contract is calling for. So if he wanted to restructure and he's still the leader, that he was when he came here, then maybe they'll try and keep him. If this is still in fact Baker's team, which I think it is, if there was something that was, a little off because of the whole situation, it might be the point where, he says, look, I understand you guys aren't gonna want to pay me, what the contract is, and I'll go somewhere else. I don't want to restructure. So, that remains to be seen. But I think it would be great to have him back if everything is copacetic, but if you roll out, I would think if you rolled out, and we'll just throw Garrett Wilson or the kid from Alabama, if you rolled one of those kids out as your one,
Mm-hmm.
with DPJ and Schwartz and let's say Jarvis, with Hunt and Chubb in the backfield, and Njoku's a free agent. I think they do bring him back. So you're running out the same tight ends, and are they Travis Kelce or George Kittle, Mark Andrews? No, but collectively, are they solid at the tight end position? Yeah. So, then you see what happens, and you hope that it works out, because if it doesn't, now everybody's a year older, everybody's contract's a year older, and then I don't want to even talk about the dreaded word of rebuild. And you could get there pretty darn quick, So it's we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, because here's the reality. I mean, Nick Chubb is going to be, he's 20. He just turned 26 in December, literally a couple days ago, 27th. Yep. He's going to be 26 next year, but he'll be then 27 the year after Baker. And as we know about NFL running backs, when you hit the late side of your 20s, not a lot of them remain, top end guy. Could Chubb get there? I think Chubb could. I think Chubb could be a different type guy, especially since he's sharing the workload with Hunt. And I think that's by design.
Yeah, I agree.
So they could go longer, which I think is smart. And even those drives where they bake in Dearness Johnson, I just don't like when they bake it in, in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter.
Right.
It's like, come on, are you saving him for the red zone? Like that's silly, right?
Yeah. And go
win with him.
Yeah. And just for everybody out there, Kareem Hunt is inactive tonight. And I assume that he probably would be, because, the ankle is still, it's not 100%. And why throw him out there when there's, from a second season standpoint, there's no reason to. So
I have Ronnie Harrison, Troy Hill, John
Yep.
Johnson,
Yep.
Mac Wilson, non-injury related personal.
Yeah, it was a personal thing. I don't know. I didn't hear anything as to why, but yeah, both safeties are out.
And Pittsburgh Steelers have linebacker Buddy Johnson out. That's it. So
the big one for us, I believe, is Clowney's back. So and Miles said the groin's feeling better. So I think they're going to wreak havoc tonight. I think I have a feeling that tonight, and obviously he's played well all year, and he's such a good kid, but I have a feeling tonight is going to be a JOK coming out party. Like
nice.
I feel like maybe a pick six or a big turnover, something big sack, sack fumble kind of thing. I don't know. I have a feeling that it's going to be a lights out game for him tonight.
That'd be amazing. I mean, I think that he was one of the shining things about the season, and even he was injured, and Newsome was injured. So yeah, I mean, it's been one of those seasons where we couldn't stay on the field, and a lot of teams deal with this too. But we couldn't stay on the field, and unfortunately, we've come up short in those moments we had to. We had, how many game-winning drives did we have? Let me go back and look at Browns.
And as you're doing that, the one thing that I will say too is, and so do our listeners, I don't like to throw excuses out there at all. But I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find a team that could be a playoff team more so than, let's say, the Washington football team, because they had a hard time of it as well. But for what we went through for that Raiders game, if our guys are playing, they win that game, and this might
Yeah.
be, we might be playing for something right now. As a matter of fact, I know we would be playing for something right now because we had a lot of those same guys that were out in Green Bay, and then ultimately they changed the rule, and we went from
Half our damn team.
half of our team being asymptomatic and just continuously testing positive for 10 days. And some of them were still testing positive after the 10 days and they were good to go. And then you literally have an unvaccinated Carson Wentz who tested positive on like Monday and he played on Sunday. So it's, we really, sometimes when the short straws are drawn, man, the Browns just always find a way to get like the extremely, extremely short straw. And that was one of them. So again, I mean, you could look back and there's games that we should have won. They should not have lost the Kansas City game. They needed to hold that lead. They shouldn't have lost to the Steelers on Halloween. So there's a ton of games to look back on, to say, it was our own doing. We should have done X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
But you would be missing a big, factor, if you will, of what we went through for the Raiders game and then for Green Bay. Because I mean, look at both of those games. I mean, we lost at the end, and we were missing a ton of. I mean, almost our whole offense against the Raiders, and a good majority of our defense against Green Bay. We were still missing our offensive line, and we were missing Clowney and a couple other guys. So, we ran into a buzzsaw, when it came to COVID, and, it is what it is. I mean, you can look back on it and say, yeah, this game, that game, we win those games and we're good. And you can also say, if we didn't, get stuck with the COVID bug, and then the rules got changed a week later, which, last thing I'm going to say, and then I'll shut up. But I really feel, and you and I have talked about this, if you wanted to change the rule for the new CDC 5-day, etc., okay, that's fine. But a lot of teams from week 1 through 16 or 15 had to deal with it, and nobody more than we did. And so if you want to change that rule, that is fine, but change it come playoff time. They should never have changed that with 2 weeks left in the season. It's not right. And, it could have changed the complexion because, I mean, the Colts still lost, and maybe that was just karma, but it is what it is. But
yeah, I mean, I think Mike, I think you're 100% right. It wasn't fair to everybody to penalize certain teams arbitrarily and then not penalize others. They could have easily said, hey, and come the playoff time, we're going to now abide by the CDC rules. Everybody's equal playing field. There's nothing changing. That's what it is. And I think back to this team, and I wanted to go through a couple of these games. The Chiefs game, we should have came back and won that. We had a final drive, threw an interception. The Chargers game, we had a chance, couldn't get it in.
Yeah.
The Steelers on Halloween, we were both there, couldn't make it happen. And then you had those anomaly games where we beat the crap out of the Bengals 41-16 after losing to the Steelers. And it was like, okay, here we go. And then bam, the next week, 45-7 loss to the Patriots. It's like Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah, that one, and every year, a team has a stinker. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But that one was just, it was like a letdown. It was almost like because that was right. That was 2 games after OBJ. So the OBJ situation happened. They all rallied around each other because they didn't want to look like, national media idiots, right? Because that's what we were painted as. And they came out and they tattooed the Bengals, and then the letdown. And then they went to New England and just got their doors blown off. And yeah, I mean,
Well, the fact that we couldn't beat the Ravens with 4 interceptions. The fact
that's
that
another one. Yeah,
the
good one.
fact I mean the fact that we couldn't beat the Raiders, we couldn't beat the Packers. We needed to beat the Ravens, beat the Raiders, beat the Packers, and then go in. We needed to win these games, and you're not going to do it if you can't,
Yeah.
So
And you can what if all day long, but if you go back through it, even with the mediocre quarterback play that we've got, that we've gotten up to this point, when you go through forget about the Kansas City game, right? It was there. They found a way to come back. We'll throw that one out. But I mean, if you go through the Halloween game, no reason why we shouldn't have won that game. The Ravens 4 interception game, no reason why we shouldn't have won that. And then Green Bay, no reason why we shouldn't have won that game. So, and you could say, the penalties and the refs and what have you, but I mean, that should have been, and the Raiders, that's 4 wins, right?
yeah. And that's
So,
ultimate. That I think what the difference between last year and this year was we won those close games.
yeah, we'd have 11
found a
wins
way.
right now.
What's that?
We'd have 11 wins right now.
Yeah, we found a way to win those games, and this year we just haven't. And that is ultimately what has cost us this season. So
Yeah, and it happens. Like you look at the Eagles, and I only bring them up just because that's where I live. But I mean, they were horrible last year, and they started 1-4 this year, and things went their way. They actually got hit by the COVID bug today, 9 guys, but I mean, it doesn't matter now. They'll probably be clear by game time on Sunday. But
right.
But point being is, as bad as they were last year, and their fans were boo-hooing, we suck, and we're never going to be good again. The next year they make the playoffs, and then you look at us, we make the playoffs, win a playoff game, and we're like, well, we're never not going to the playoffs again. And then here we are. So it's NFL, not for long, right? Lawrence Taylor coined that.
Yeah. Okay, guys, we have less than what time does the game start at? Kicks off at 8:15, so we got about 10 minutes, 10, 12 minutes before kickoff. There's not going to be a post-game show because it's going to be super late, and we'll pick it up on the Wednesday show. We'll give you post-game thoughts on Wednesday. Thank you guys for being here. Thanks for hanging out with us. We didn't quite make it to our subscriber goal, but we're getting a little bit closer. That subscriber count is actually a little bit low. We're currently at, if I can click the studio button, it'll tell me 4775. So we're getting closer. And Mike and I have made a commitment. We're going to do the Wednesday show through the off season and everything like that. My dad will be joining us. Got him set up in his home studio as well. So he should be in good shape as, for all of our off season type shows. And yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of things to talk about. And, you guys are absolutely more than welcome to hang out with us as we do it. So I will tell you this, guys, have a lovely evening. Be safe. Enjoy the game. Let's give them a run. And we'll see you guys on Wednesday. Go Browns.
Go Brownies.